right, Tainelli, let us know what the next question is.
Hi, Christina. I am curious what you do to navigate through anxiety and how to understand why it shows up when it does and in the way it does. I have struggled with anxiety for decades, and it feels like over the years it continues to get worse. I recently took a sabbatical leave from my job and have been experiencing panic attacks nearly every night for a few months now. My husband works graveyard shifts, and I know a part of the anxiety is being apart from him overnight. I have had immense fear around driving since I was a teenager, and I barely leave the house or drive anymore because of the panic I feel when I am driving alone. I have 4 young kids, so stress is high in my life. Is anxiety and panic something that manifests to become worse? Would energy healing help take away anxiety and panic? What does it mean when we get panic attacks constantly and at the same time each day or night? Is there a bigger reason behind them?
Well, first of all, I'm really sorry that you're experiencing that. I know how debilitating that can be. I dealt with extreme anxiety and panic attacks for a long time, long time. And I thought that I would never be able to release that. So I know how debilitating that can be. Anxiety is a message to us that something is off, that something is out of alignment. And that's a really general way to put it. But what actually feels a lot more present with this when we have that much anxiety, think about it like you're plugged into a frequency that is non-resonant with your body. So when we're plugged into a frequency that's really non-resonant with your body, the body becomes anxious. The body does not like that. It's itching to get out. There's a non-resonance. When we're fully in resonance or in coherence, there is peace, there's calm, there's flow within the system. So when there's anxiety, when there's paranoia, those frequencies are not your divine truth. When you come back to the knowing, which I understand can feel really hard to come back to in that moment, but I'm going to tell you this. Your truth, your soul in this body is calm, is peaceful, feels love. So when we're feeling a lot of anxiety, it's telling us that there's something in the field that is off, that it's out of alignment. And for some people who have low level anxiety, it might be something like they're in the wrong career, or it might be something like they're living in the wrong place. A lot of times when I'm in a situation that's not safe for me, perhaps emotional or even physically, I've had this with careers I was in where it was really draining the life force out of me. It creates this chronic low grade anxiety and panic attacks because my system is overwhelmed. You get a panic attack when your system is energetically overwhelmed. I'm talking about the energetic approach to this. Obviously, you can map this onto the actual medical viewpoint of this, but a panic attack is when the system is completely overwhelmed with what's going on energetically. And so there's too much input that's not resonant with the system. And the system has to find some way to release it. And it's a very scary thing. And your physical body obviously gets involved with that. And so we're getting to the root of what are those non-resonant frequencies. And something that is really common with this is going to be energetic attachments. And while people might not want to acknowledge this, energetic attachments are a very real thing that are connected to a lot of anxiety and depression, different mood disorders, where there are frequencies attached in the field, moving through the field that are resonant with energies that are not loving or peaceful. So anything of the opposite. So things that are fear-based, essentially, are running through the field. Now, how do these come in? Sometimes it can come through the dream space. Often can come through movies and music and different content that we're consuming or people that we're around, where there are frequencies that are anxiety producing, that are fear-based frequencies. Your body knows that it's not resonant, similar to when you eat a food and your body knows this is not good for me. So if you eat something bad, right? Let's say the food is bad, it's spoiled, and your body knows this is not good for me. It might have a reaction, right? You might throw it up. You might have it released in some way because the body wants to get it out. And that is a lot of the similar energetic when we have anxiety and panic attacks of the body, the energy system wants to get it out. So a lot of these can come through things that we consume, and a lot of this can come from something a long time ago. for me personally, a lot of where those frequencies came in when I was dealing with this were through movies I watched, music I listened to, concerts I went to, people I was around, where I picked up on that, and it started to build in my system these voices that were fear-based, that were low frequencies. And what started to happen was I started to not be able to stabilize myself. And so when you're feeling that panic, when your partner is away with work, it's because your partner represents safety for you. Your partner represents this grounded place that you can connect in with, where you're stabilizing, because these frequencies are so active that your body, your energy body, is looking for something to stabilize you for safety. And so when he goes, your stabilization is far away. And then if you add something like movement to it, like getting in a car, the energy system has gotten to a space where it doesn't have its own stabilization. And so from an energetic perspective, could something like energy healing support? Sure. And other things can as well. The important thing for you to understand is that this can improve. And so from an energetic perspective, what this would look like is finding those non-resonant frequencies, those frequencies of fear, those voices, which doesn't have to be a technical voice, right? It's a feeling, it's a frequency, it's a thread, it's a stream, that are based in fear, in worry, in doubt, in any of those low frequency energies. Removing those from the field and restoring you back to soul energy and love energy, and then restabilizing and regrounding the energy body. And so energetic grounding practices and personal grounding practices are really powerful for helping with anxiety, as a really low level way to just get your system in a place where it could actually receive any other modalities. We're also looking at things we're consuming, like food, of course. Food plays a huge role in anxiety, in mood, in feelings. And we can talk about that from the scientific perspective, from the nutritional perspective, from the energetic perspective, when we're consuming foods that are non-resonant with our bodies. So more processed foods, high sugar foods, things like that. The body is going to attune to those frequencies, and a lot of these foods are attuned to those same vibrations, because energy is energy. And so nutrition is energetic. Nutrition can be food, nutrition can be conversation, nutrition could be movies, nutrition could be music. When we're feeding ourselves with more of that, it's contributing to that frequency stream in the body as well. So anxiety is telling us that something is off, that something needs to be cleared, that needs to be released, that we need to try something else, that we need to ground into actual safety. And so finding the things that can pull us into our bodies and come back home to our soul energies. But there's a huge component of detoxification to this, physical and energetic detoxification. There's a huge component of nutrition with this. And nutrition, again, is food. It is content that you're consuming. If I was in that position again, I would clean up my diet very much and eat only whole foods. I would drink a lot of clean filtered water. I would support my liver as much as I can, and I would do a content detox, and I would play loving binaural beats. I wouldn't listen to music with words. I would play high frequencies. I would watch anything I was consuming in terms of movies or podcasts, and maybe even just turn that off or just listen to very happy, uplifting, simple things. I would spend a lot of time in nature, and I would definitely do some energy work to release some of these older frequencies. The thing is that when we want to shift a vibration, we can do it in a few ways, one of which is clearing out the old to make space for the truth to come online, the truth of our soul, the truth of love to come online. The other thing is that we can crowd out. And so this is the idea or the concept behind focusing more on what you want. Focusing more on what you want, focusing more on what you want. That absolutely works because it redirects our energy. But as somebody who has struggled with a lot of anxiety and depression, when you're in that state, it can be really hard to just keep trying to focus on something else because you don't relate to that. And so that's why sometimes the other direction of releasing, of clearing, of cleansing is more accessible. It was for me. And from that state, I was actually in a place where I could get silence. So silence was better than, or more effective, or easier for me to access than trying to focus on something positive, because when you're in that state, positivity feels so far away. And so just being in a neutral is going to be really important. But the big thing here is recognizing where our stabilization is coming from, and we look at where we source our grounding from. And I want you to think about that energetically. What grounds you here? What makes you feel grounded? And for most people, we ground ourselves externally. We ground ourselves through, well, I have my career, this is where I'm living, this is my partner. And when we are externally sourcing our sense of stability and our sense of groundedness, then what happens when anything changes? When the career changes, or when things get shaky with a partnership, or if you have to move, what happens then is we feel totally destabilized because we're not grounding in a healthy way. And this is what 98% of humans do. And so when we learn to source our presence and source our safety and stability from source itself, from the divine, which is within my own body, as long as I'm here with myself in my body and I have divine support, I have source with me, I'm safe, I'm stable. And when I come back to the things that immediately shift my vibrational state, that immediately ground me in, when I'm two in my human and two in that stuff, it immediately allows me to feel more confidence and feel calm in the chaos. It's because I pull myself out for a moment, I cut out the noise, I get back into nature, and I go back into my heart and I connect in with the divine. I connect in with God, with source, with love itself. And when you pull yourself into that frequency, start to stabilize from that place. And so there can be a time of retraining your energy system of where you are stabilizing from. And so for you to stabilizing from everything external, so think about it as if, imagine as if you had a cord connecting you from your body to your job and to your partner and to your house. And if one of those goes away or gets cut, then I don't have my 2 feet on the ground. That's unsustainable. That's a Band-Aid approach. And so in our lives, we want to make sure that the real work is we're coming back home to source. We're coming back home to love, and we're using that to orient us, to fortify us, to ground us in, because from that space, we're totally unshakable. And from that space, any of these lower frequencies don't affect us the same way. From that space, and I will tell you, as somebody who was so paranoid for so much of my life, so anxious, so depressed, never did I think I'd be somebody who's at this space where I realize all of those frequencies literally can't exist when I'm in my knowing of my connection to source. And so it's a huge perspective shift, and it doesn't always happen in one moment. And so you take one bite at a time. You take one step at a time. And you find a small moment or a small practice that connects you in with your heart or connects you in with nature. Nature is a great way to have a visceral connection and reminder of God, of the divine, of source, because it's so palpably there. And then you start to realize, oh, it's everywhere. And when you realize it's everywhere at all times, doesn't matter if I'm sitting here, if I'm out in nature, I don't have to go anywhere, I don't have to do anything specific. Source is always here. Source is always moving through us. Source is always there. Love is always with us. And you start to orient from that perspective. These other frequencies become so obvious to you, and you can choose to allow those to clear out of your field. Those can start to melt away naturally. So big picture, what we're looking at is, where are we sourcing ourselves? Where are we sourcing our energy? Where are we grounding ourselves into? What's creating stabilization for us? And this is why spiritual practice is so powerful, because it's not just about the practice, it's about what it means to you. And when it has real meaning, you realize this is actually my gravity now. And that is where we can move out of the anxiety. That's where we can see clearly, because that voice of love and truth is guiding us. We are seeing from the eyes of the divine, and then it is very clear to us what's non-resonant. So that can drop out of our field so we can come back home to a place of peace. There's a lot to unpack there. And I'll also say you don't have to do it alone. And there's so many people that are so incredible at supporting people through things like this. But there's absolutely an energetic connection. And It can be a journey to connect back in with your knowing that source is already with you, that you're an extension of source, and to practice really allowing that to be your source, allowing that to be your grounding force. When you do, everything is going to change.